Good morning, everyone. My name is Danny Elizabeth, and you are here for the Idaho Community Programs for Youth Award Round 3 webinar overview. I believe most of you that I can see on the call are familiar with the Idaho Out-of-School Network, but we like to introduce ourselves and let you know who we are for all who will watch this who might not be. So come on, there we go. So on the call with me today is Anna Almarico. Sorry, Anna.
No worries.
Correctly.
Welcome.
And there is our information at the beginning of the slides as well as mine. We'll send out the slides afterwards as well so that you can contact us. I'll be the main contact for any questions you have about this award process. Here's a little bit about us. So our main goal is to ensure that Idaho's youth have access to high quality out of school time programming. Our three main goals are to increase awareness and access to it, to organize around policy and partnerships statewide, and to nurture quality and professional development. And we have extensive resources for that. So be sure to ask if you're curious about resources for your program. Some of those are the Idaho building blocks for out of school time quality. It's an excellent tool for programs who are trying to do a self-assessment of how they're doing. The coaching involved is through the materials is really, really excellent. Not on this call or listed is we have a quality coordinator, Diana, and she is a wonderful person to reach out to in regards to this because she built it. And so you are welcome to reach out to her anytime if you have questions. We have an entire page dedicated to the social emotional resources. Our program directory allows you to connect to other programs across the state to see what's available in your region, which is always great to encourage collaboration. And then we, as you should know, we have an additional funding resources page where you can see all kinds of opportunities that range for the organization, for different types of projects, for grants, challenges, etc. It's just important to begin to reinforce the message of how critical out of school programs are to our youth, and that there continues to be a gap for those across the state in being able to access it. And so that's what one of this award and the network is trying to address. So here's a little stat for you. Every child enrolled in Idaho, for every child enrolled in Idaho, there are 4 more who would participate if they had access to it. And I'm sure, as most of you know, there are all kinds of barriers to out of school time. Some is that the program doesn't exist because the town is small, rural, remote. Funding is always an issue. Staffing is continuing to find people who are willing and able to do out of school time. All kinds of issues that I'm sure some of you are trying to address, hence applying for this award. So let's go over some of the priorities of this funding. So the main goals are to address unfinished learning that has occurred because of pandemic related barriers. So providing academic support over the summer so that students can maintain or even increase their learning during those summer months to prevent summer slide. Social and emotional supports. We often know that out of school time programs can be hubs for the community and not just for the children, but wraparound services for the adults in their lives as well. And that every child is served. So providing enrichment opportunities that might not be available, or children might not have continuous exposure to things like STEM, music, the arts, and to addressing the disparities between different demographics. So purposes that you will note in the request for proposal are expand access to serve more youth with an emphasis on children who are most impacted by the pandemic, reduce barriers to participation to ensure access for all, and increase programmatic quality and expand or enhance support services offered. Each applicant must select one of these purposes. You can select all three, but that doesn't increase, it doesn't necessarily increase your likelihood for being selected. Your plan, your project plan, must be able to show how you have the capacity to meet these purposes. So just be mindful of that. There will also be strategies to select for each of those purposes. So some possibilities might be reducing the cost if your program has one for its families, to lower the cost, create a sliding scale, offer scholarships. It could be a matter of expanding the number of summer weeks or hours, or the number of children's or spots, increasing staffing to make those ratios most conducive. Increasing youth supports, like a mental health provider that could visit, a social worker, an inclusion consultant, tutors, mentors. Offering or increasing transportation, which in Idaho we know is consistently an issue for access. Ensuring that all youth are able to participate of all kinds of abilities. This could mean making sure that accommodations are included or created for accessing the program. Staffing costs are, and especially if you're able to offer competitive wages through the award. Integration of SEL and STEM programming with evidence-based curriculum and offering hands-on enrichment. So this could mean bringing in special guests. It could mean field trips, all kinds of things like that. All right. So some of the eligibility requirements are that you must be a nonprofit, a community-based organization, and after-school programs hosted by schools are also eligible, but you must serve ages 5 to 13 in out-of-school time in June through August. So we will have applicants who just do a week-long camp in the summer. They aren't active throughout the whole summer months, and they are eligible. You don't have to be active for the full 3 months, but that will be considered, because increased amounts of availability that kids have to out of school time programming definitely elongates and deepens the impact it can have. Note that you can serve other ages. Oftentimes out of school time providers do, but the funds must be used towards the ages 5 through 13. This award also has targeted populations we're trying to reach. We know that these demographics of youth are often underserved and disadvantaged, and this award helps to alleviate their access to programming. So in the application, you will indicate which of these populations you serve. The timeline for this award is that it launched yesterday. The submission deadline is April 7th, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The awards will be selected, reviewed by a peer community member and professional out-of-school time providers prior to, and the announcement will be made on the 19th. Disbursement will take place after that. And then the final report for the programming is due September 15th, 2022. I'd like to talk about a couple of the attachments available inside the request for proposal. You should be able to find them and their links. So we'll go over the rubric, the application guide that contains the questions so that you can see them prior, and the proposed budget template. I'm going to pause for just a moment because I've covered quite a bit so far. Maybe it's on the top of your head. Does anyone have any questions right now that they'd like to ask? You can ask via chat or just unmute yourself. All right, we'll continue then. So the rubric that our review committee will be using, I would recommend that you familiarize yourself with how they will be scoring applications. So there's the four categories, which is also how the application is set up too. It is set up in these same categories. So we will be asking questions about the organizational history and structure, including capacity. We'll ask about the program design and quality, including research or evidence-based curriculum. If you don't currently use one, any that is acceptable, especially if you say that through this award you would like to implement some resources that way. And you'll be asked to make a strong case for how either your program is currently addressing social, emotional, and unfinished learning needs, or in addition, how these awards would change that for your program.
Danny, can I add one thing on the evidence-based programming?
Yeah.
Just knowing that a lot of programs do currently use evidence-based program, we may not call it that traditionally. So if you have any questions as to what you are proposing to do this summer and you just want to clarify how that might be stated or framed, please reach out to us because we can help kind of with that as well.
Good point. Describing the community impact that this award would have, including like the needs that you have identified for your participants and for your community, and being able to succinctly but thoroughly describe them and how you arrived at that needs statement. We always encourage partnerships and collaboration. So we'll ask you to state them if you have them. If you don't have them and would like to use these awards to increase or develop, being able to describe that is also highly encouraged. And then finally, with your budget and funding, I don't believe I mentioned it yet so far, but if you're familiar with the rounds 1 and 2, we opted in those rounds for it to be a tier of funding that you applied for. And in this Summer of Innovation round, it's a justified amount. So you'll ask for exactly the amount that you require to fund your project for the summer months. And you'll be asked to provide a proposed budget for this funding, to list the organizational programming. What's the word I'm thinking of? The budget.
Like the
The budget.
intention.
Yes. So how much your program currently has set aside for programming. You'll be asked to list that. And I also wanted to note that this award can be used for programs that have not been run before. So for those who are already in existence and it's a continuation, and for those who have never been able to provide programming like this before, we definitely want to encourage those as well. So things to note about the budget, it's very important. So oftentimes we see people provide proposed budgets with inside this template, they list what their current program budget is. But in this proposed budget template, we are asking you to demonstrate what you would use the award for. So that's what you would put in. We are asking applicants to use this template. And the way to do that is to download the template as an Excel file, complete it inside the program that opens for you on your technology, and then to upload it as a PDF in the award portal, which I will also get to. That's new for this round as well. And we just ask that you be very detailed on how you will use these funds. So staffing costs, please list how much an hour, how many staff for how many hours. Youth learning supplies, be specific about what you intend to purchase. If you're going to provide scholarships, please list how many and for how much. You'll note that on this template, the Power Up Summit lodging, travel, and registration are still listed. That is not a requirement for this award. However, it's highly encouraged that you attend. It's such a valuable networking opportunity and professional development. And so we highly encourage it, and you can include that in your budget. If you would like to send staff to this, you can use the awards for the costs that go to doing that. Next is something you may be familiar with before and may not. So inside the application, all interested parties will be asked to utilize the out-of-school time cost calculator. And so here's what the front page looks like. I'm going to stop share so that I can do a quick walkthrough of this, because as a tool, it's very, very valuable, but not everyone's familiar with it. And I don't want it to be a hurdle to folks when applying. So I'm going to see if I can exit. I'm recording, so it won't let me minimize. Share screen. Nope, that didn't do it. Sorry, guys.
While Danny's doing that, does anyone have any questions? I can try and answer as well.
Why isn't it?
I just actually went to the request for proposal, and I don't know what I marked on there wrong, but it says that we won't qualify for the program. We can't request, we're not eligible. So I don't know if I marked something specifically wrong, but I thought I answered yes to all of the questions that we'd be doing it in the summer. And it doesn't matter that we've had the previous rounds.
Correct, doesn't.
I think it's
Right.
probably a question I asked Danny yesterday, which is have you received Idaho Community Program funds from Health and Welfare? It's so similarly named to the Idaho Community Programs for Youth grant that I had to double check on that. So if you answer yes, Danny had said that, then you're ineligible for this. Could that be it?
Okay. Perfect.
Most likely that is it. And the reason for that is the Idaho Community Programs grant is through the Department of Health and Welfare. They are really similarly named. We'll make sure that we don't have that confusion going forward. So if you're eligible for that, you're not eligible for this round simply because it is the same funding through ARPA. So that may be the reason. And I cannot seem to find a way to exit this and to minimize it. It won't let me do it since I'm recording. So I will just show you the next slide, which is the results. So you'll be asked to fill out the Wallace calculator and to upload your results page from it. It will ask you elements about your program, and you'll fill those out according to what you either have done in the past and intend to do this summer, or what you will do if you're a new program. And here is the breakdown. So I did an example of a community-based organization that's going to be hosted in the community. It's for elementary and middle school. Its site is the Treasure Valley. It's non-academic. And I listed the the youth staff ratio. And it has the breakdown of cost per week and annually, and the hourly cost there. If you have any questions about how to use the Wallace calculator or why we ask for it, please get in touch and we can help describe how this is a useful tool for our reviewers. We know that across the state, programs cost different things, and this is just a good gauge for us to see if your ask is appropriate for what your program costs. Are there any questions right now for that? Okay. So now we'll get to the very exciting aspect about this round. For those who applied for the first two rounds, we had one method, and now we have a grant portal, which will allow you to register and fill out the application that you can return to, you can save, you can upload, you can edit. We're really excited about this option because we know that sometimes technology can get in the way of making the process easy. And so being able to offer as a portal, you'll be able to see what you've applied for going forward. When we have future funding opportunities, you'll be able to return to the same portal in order to see which funding opportunities you've applied for, and awardees will be able to use that portal to see and take care of any requirements after awarded. So because I can't seem to exit this, in order to show you, the option for translation is also available for this portal. If you have questions about that, I can do a walkthrough on a different call, or I'm able to present something with screenshots. It's relatively easy. You right click on the web page and it will give you options. One of the options towards the bottom is to translate. You click on that and then it gives you the option of which language to translate to. And so this is available in the grant portal, which is also a wonderful opportunity to make this award more accessible. As you discovered, there is a preliminary questionnaire that will let you know whether you're capable. We don't want you to waste your time, and we don't want to waste our time. So if any of those conditions apply, you aren't eligible for this round, but please come back for future rounds. And as I said before, you'll create a registration, save, finish later, and submit. It's also really excellent the way that it's set up. We've tested it multiple times so that you will get a link after you register with the link that you'll apply to, or that you'll to re-enter, which is very convenient. Do utilize the same email and login information. You can add people to your account as well so that you can have multiple people looking at the application, entering information for it, which is also great. And here's a little preview of what that grant portal looks like at the beginning. And so I'm going to note, as we mentioned before, there are 4 sections of an application. We have the welcome page, the organizational information, key contacts that you'll want to add. So we'll ask for the program director, we'll ask for the contact if it is not the program director, and if there is a fiscal agent or sponsor to this award, it will be important to list that as well. We'll ask for information about the program, the community impact, like I stated before, and the budget and funding. Any attachments that we've asked to upload there. We'll ask you to look at the assurances, which are listed in the request for proposal as well. You'll have the opportunity to review your application before submitting. Once you submit, you won't be able to make any edits, so I will note that. So be mindful as you go through the review process. If at any time you have a question about it, the request for proposal link is at the top, where you can reference it to see what the eligibility requirements are, what the timeline is, etc. All right, and with that, I went through the information and want to welcome you to joining us and being part of the network, and give you an opportunity to ask any questions, comments, anything that you need to share at this time that would be helpful in accessing and filling out this award application.
Danny, there was a question about if there is kind of an overarching organization and they have program sites at various locations, have funding from Idaho Department of Health and Welfare for several of those sites, but not all, and want to expand, would they be eligible for this grant? And I would say yes.
That is a tricky one. That is a tricky one. If that site is not receiving the funds and your project is specific to a site, then I would say that would keep your eligibility.
Yes.
Your fiscal sponsor can be overarching for multiple program sites, and that's acceptable. But the funds would have to directly go to a site that is not receiving the IDHW funding. So you'd have to be very clear about that, and monitoring and use of funds would be very detailed. Since it's federal funding, it's coming through the American Rescue Plan Act. then our fidelity to it is very important. We are, because it's a new funding source, very likely to be audited. So making sure that you are clearly defining how you use the funds is important to you, and it's very important to us as a network as well. Good question.
So it sounds like in the eligibility questionnaire, a few people have had some issues with it because of that question, and there's not a way to return and re-answer those questions. It just remembers them as ineligible. So I'm wondering if that's something we need to contact the
Yes.
portal folks on. So if that happened to you,
Yeah.
please send us an email and we can reset that.
Yes. Another immediate opportunity or workaround is for another member or staff in your program to register under their account and to begin it. That's an option as well. But I think we're going to have to make sure that our consultant knows about that option and to change it. I thought we covered it, but we'll double check and make sure. Let me note that real quick.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, thank you for attending today. We are so pleased to see so many people interested in this award. We're really excited for what it can do and the impact it's going to make for communities across the state. Please be sure, if you're aware of other programs similarly in your community who could benefit and meet these eligibility, please share the opportunity with them. I know that might sound counterproductive because it's a grant application and award that generally competitive, but as the network, we're really trying to reach as much of the state as possible, and the funding can really make a much broader impact the more programs that apply. So we're highly encouraging for folks to get in touch with us and reach out and have this opportunity. With that, if there aren't any other questions, I'll go ahead and give you back your morning time. And again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you. Recording.
And